when I was a kid in school, they used to ask me to draw, murals at the entrances, and I always did a lot of stuff at school, paintings. And then I went to the Art Institute in Chicago when I was about 9 or 10 years old to classes. And this was a really fabulous thing in my life because the basement of the Art Institute was where the school was, and upstairs were these fabulous paintings. It's a great art museum. And we would run upstairs and I'd run upstairs and look at the Van Goghs and look at the Picassos and Renoirs and everything as a child. And I knew who I liked, and I knew, I started to see what was good, So that was the beginning. And then in high school, I didn't do any art at all. And then I went to university and was a history major. And there were a couple of artists that were in the house that I lived in, and I used to watch everything they did. I was like, "What are you doing?" And they were dripping. I always think of them to this day when I drip something, because they were moving their canvases around, and there were drips all over. And then I got married after 2 years of college and had 2 babies very soon after that. And then I started going to art classes, real art classes at the high school. And had the best teacher I ever had in my life was that first teacher. And he just opened up our minds. And we did things on cardboard with poster paints and just all kinds of really interesting things. And he would read us poetry and we would make paintings. And then I've painted ever since then. So that is now 54 years ago. So I've been painting for a long time.
And do you have any of that work still?
I have one painting not from his class, but I was with a teacher for about 10 years before we left Chicago. And I have one painting from that time. And she gave me a show. That was the first show I ever had. And I do have one. Do you want to see it?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's.
So there's no date on this?
No, I don't think so. And my name was Racklin. That was my married name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a date on the back somewhere.
So it's all done with a knife, you said?
Pretty much. And this teacher that I studied with for 10 years or something used to come around and put the eyes in. So I did the whole painting, and she did the eyes. So it's like,
So
shit,
why did she put in the eyes?
She used to do stuff like that. But I was with her for a long time, and I started teaching in that class. I would teach when she wasn't around. And so I've taught for a really long time now,
So you've been teaching girls from the beginning?
Almost, yeah. But teaching's very natural for me. It's sort of my natural talent. Painting's harder for me than teaching.
I couldn't imagine teaching.
You can?
No, just. What do you teach them? But so it's. How much has that influenced your work, do you think?
Teaching?
Teaching.
That's a very interesting question. Sometimes, because I'm teaching something, I will do it myself. So, and sometimes now I have this group that's been with me for 18 years, I think, and it's pretty steady. The newest person is about 8 or 9 years. And we all look at each other's work. So they look at my work too. And so they have helped me with, certain paintings that I've been struggling with. And, we just help each other. And it's a wonderful, wonderful experience for me to have this group. 2 hours a month. And we also celebrate birthdays together and, have dinners. And it's a wonderful group. So in that sense, yes. And if I do assignments, I'll do the assignments sometimes. Yeah, but I hardly ever do assignments. They just work on what they're working on, they bring it in, and we all look at it. And we're very positive. It's not, heavy criticism.
So did you ever teach at an institution?
Yeah, I taught at the Art Therapy Association, or whatever they call that. What else did I teach at? I think I taught, maybe not, I won't say that. No.
So mostly.
Yeah.
You have
My own,
private.
I had classes in Chinatown for years and years, regular painting classes, where they would come in and paint, and I used to make coffee and say, this is my real job, to make the coffee.
So do you help putting the eyes to the paintings like
No,
the
no,
picture?
no, I never do that. Good question. No, I always have to say that too if I show somebody that painting, because I can't take credit for those eyes. I have done a few eyes since then, but not those.
So do you ever find it difficult teaching as far as imposing your personal?
No, I don't impose my personal stuff.
No, try not to. Do you ever find that hard? 'Cause
No, I don't. My students are, most of them do landscape and seascape things and things like that aren't really what I do. So I really believe in fostering their own, that's not the right word, but encouraging their own, whatever they're interested in doing. But I like to say, let's do a painting, and I did get this from Don Harvey, by the way, with black and white in the painting. Because I remember doing that in Don Harvey's class, and I love using black and white in a painting, both colors, and other colors. Yeah, so I'll say stuff like that, every once in a while. I'm talking to them about mystery right now, a little bit.
Well, that's a
Mystery. You're good at that.
What about drawing?
Do I draw?
Well, you draw in your painting, I mean,
Yeah,
but you just draw, I mean, I know.
I draw a little, and I do monotypes. These are monotypes, and that's sort of more drawing. I don't do drawing classes or anything like that anymore. I did for years. Do you?
No. Draw or have class?
Draw.
So draw, comes off and on. Not lately. I mean, once I got really involved in painting, oil painting, less. I don't seem to have the patience for it. No,
I
do
like
these
drawing if I'm on the ferry or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Because it's relaxing. And I've been on the ferry where it's been rough. And I'll draw and I'll calm down. So I like it on that level. But I mean, the drawing I do is mostly, I'll get an idea for a painting and I'll do little thumbnail sketches. And that's mostly what I do. And then, of course, in the painting itself. There's a lot of drawing in that one, Yeah.
I just found drawing. I started to draw it, it would be too much, like it had to be a finished piece, even when it wasn't supposed to be, so I just thought, I might as well be painting if I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah. I did do a lot of pastels and charcoal years ago, too. So, and I love working in that. I mean, it's really a great medium. But it was too dirty eventually. It was just, I used to work with this heavy, dark charcoal. I can't remember the name of it right now. I have some over there. And it was filthy. It was just like I was really, really dirty at the end of working. Yeah.
Well, it's like pastels, too. Have it all in my sinuses, and
I know.
probably your lungs are coated with it.
Don't even say it.
Have you ever worked with like all the mediums, like watercolor, or
Oh, yeah.
have you done like try encaustic? It's like
I have
serious.
not tried encaustic.
Well, you have one piece upstairs that I thought it had encaustic on it. It almost looked like it.
Which
The
one?
figures when we just came in the door above the part. I was going to ask you, is that encaustic? Because it
No.
really looks like it has that quality.
No, I do a lot of stuff with texture, so you might be.
No, well, the texture, it almost had that translucence
Yeah.
that,
I know.
I'll point it out to you.
Okay. I've never done it. Nixie's a friend of mine, and she does it, and I like how it looks, but I've never tried it.
Yeah.
It sounds like too much of it.
Yeah, lots of work.
Yeah,
Talk about toxic.
yeah.
It's, sometimes she has to wear these huge masks, and I couldn't imagine working if you had to have something like that.
I used to spray a lot. When I make monotypes, you have to spray them if you're going to paint on them, because otherwise it'll pick up the ink forever, seems like. And I was always spraying, and I was always inhaling all that spray. And now I take things outside to spray, and I put a mask on to do it too. Because I just know it's probably going to kill me, all that spraying I did. I could just spray right in my mouth,
I used to say beneath pastel, right? To have this
I
huge
know.
piece in there. Try to hold your breath and
I
spray
know.
as fast as you can.
No, I don't really want to work with toxic things anymore. And I don't work with oils anymore, So in 35 years, I painted with oils. I would say at least 35 years, maybe 40. And
What to change?
I just wanted to see if I could do as well with acrylics.
How do you feel?
I feel like I can do almost everything as well. There's certain thing that oils have, and I don't even know how to describe it, that I can't do, but I can do way more things than I could with oils because there's so much textural stuff. So there's so many mediums that are around, and you can just play with this stuff. So I love acrylics. But when I look at some of my old oil paintings, I sort of go, oh, maybe I should have stayed with it, but I don't want to do it anymore.
So going back to watercolors, what that was your experience? Do you still do it sometimes?
I do them about one a year,
Okay.
and I found out that you could do watercolors on something called hot press paper. And if you work on hot press paper, you can work on a watercolor forever. You don't have to be really careful, and you don't have to. Have you ever done it?
No.
So that's what I do with watercolors. I work on hot press paper. And I work on a watercolor sometimes for 6 months. I'll just keep going, I don't like that part, I'll just go over it and over it and over it. Longer than I work on other things. So I don't like that idea that I have to be so careful with something. I don't like working like that.
So when you say you work on it for 6 months, you mean you work on it, you're working on other things?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So do you work that way, like have lots of things on the go?
Yeah. I usually work on 2 or 3 or 4 things at a time. And then I'll find something upstairs that I see this one little corner that I didn't fix, or that
Something's bugging you about it?
something's bugging me, so I'll bring that down and I'll do that, and I'll reframe something. I'm just doing a whole lot of stuff all the time, yeah. But I get this great feeling in the studio. I had a beautiful studio in our last house. It was much more beautiful than this. And it was all natural light, which was great. I don't have natural light in here. But when I'm in the studio, I have a real feeling of freedom. And, that's the greatest thing for me. And it's just my place, my space. And I can just do whatever I want. And I move around from, I'll do something that's like this, and I'll do something like that, and I'll do a still life, and I don't feel like I have to do any particular kind of work. So that's a really good thing for me too.
Has that always been the case?
Yeah, I like doing that. Yeah.
So talking about how's the process of your painting, like how you create a painting, you will say, how it comes to you, like.
Oh, well, they come from all kinds of places. I did want to say one thing about what's happening in my life. I don't even know how to say it, but my interests are much more spiritual than they were when I was younger. And, religious, spiritual, all these kinds of words people get worried about, nervous about. I am Jewish, and I have a wonderful, I'm part of the Jewish community, which is really marvelous, and I'm very active in it. And I also study Buddhism, and I've been doing that intensely for the last couple of years, and I'm very interested in that. So that this is really what interests me more than anything, and spiritual content in all kinds of art, theater, literature. That's where my interest is. So that's where the ideas come from. All of those places. And that could be in film, and it could be in a book, or it could be in somebody saying something, or it could be another artist, anywhere. And the way that works is that generally I will make little thumbnail sketches. And I always realize too that I have to do something in a certain period of time. Like if I get an idea, if I let too much time go by, like if I'm traveling or something like that, it won't happen. But if I get to it like soon, then it will happen. Like this is a dream, this one I keep showing you. It was a dream, and I had to do it fast, and I had to remember that dream. And if I'd let 2 weeks go by or something, that painting wouldn't exist. So thumbnail sketches, and then I always have an idea about size. Like as soon as the idea comes, I know if it's going to be big or small or whatever. And I work in all sizes, all kinds of sizes. And I also notice that if I draw with charcoal on the canvas, that the work becomes more rigid in a sense. And if I draw with paintbrush, then it's looser. So, depending on what I want to do. I don't know if you find this with your work.
Yeah, I've stopped drawing, and I do now straight with paint drawing. Paint on it.
Yeah. So all kinds of things like that, and I just keep working on them until I think they're finished. And sometimes that's a long time, and sometimes it's really fast.
Yeah.
And I always find that the ones that are really fast are the really good ones. But of course, everybody wants you to say 3 years. How long did you work on this painting? 3 years, 20 years, or something. Then they think, oh, it must be worth this money.
Like James Whistler said it when he had that trial with Ruskin, because Ruskin had attacked that painting. He had I can't remember, it was called Skyrockets or something. It was almost very abstract.
Oh yeah,
and he was attacking him for it, saying it was just a piece of garbage. And then I said, well, how long did it take you to do that? And he said, well, about 30, 40 years of experience to get to this stage.
My friend Mary Fox, she's a potter. She says that. If people say, how long did this pot take you? She says, 25 years or whatever, however long she's been doing it.
So another thing I would like to know, is so when the color comes after everything comes,
color
it's
comes
like
pretty fast usually. Yeah, pretty fast, like right in that beginning thing that happens.
so from the beginning exactly the colors they are going to go like.
I-
for example, I was looking at that painting over there, like this one that you have, like all the colors and the whole
Yeah,
thing,
it's
the
beautiful.
whole yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
make
even
those
have
for
to
you?
ask her. That painting is pretty much the color that I took a photograph of myself.
Okay.
So I worked from that photograph, and that was the color that was in the photograph. Basically, I had a robe on, a white robe on.
So I noticed that one, even though it's on a single canvas, it's been chopped up into pieces. That one is on several canvases. That's on several.
They're all
That's
on, no, these are only on one.
Oh,
Well,
really,
they-
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
you
just
paint
doing
the
a
line?
grid.
You
Yeah,
paint
I'm
the
just
line?
doing that,
Okay.
yeah.
So I thought, okay, so what is it, it's just a grid that you like? It all,
Uh,
you get the feeling that they're put together, pieces put together.
I started doing, when I started doing very realistic still lifes, I would do a grid. Because I needed it for the drawing. It was that complicated, you know, like a lot of yellow plums or whatever I was doing. So I started to get used to that grid, and this is only in the last, I don't know, 8 years, 7 years, something like that, that I started doing that. And I liked it. I'm thinking about Michael Lewis, because Michael Lewis used to put a grid on everything when he first started, and he finally said to me, "Why do people put a grid on?" And I said, "Well, you don't have to put a grid on, you know." But he was doing it all the time. I don't know if he still is. Anyway, I started to like it. And I don't really know why I started, you know, incorporating it. But I like working like that. I like that difference of all those little boxes. And it adds that little extra thing that I'm trying often to make my work not so easy for me to do or for people to see, or, you know, so I'm always doing that. So that's another way to do that.
That gets you up there. It's very monochromatic, and where the paint splattered, each one has a different.
Yeah, a little bit of texture on there, which you can't see unless you get close to it. Yeah. That was a fun painting for me to do. Yeah. This, of course, wasn't such a fun painting,
No,
although I enjoyed
It's
doing
a beautiful
this.
piece.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed doing that painting, and I didn't work on it for very long,
Aha.
which is always
Like
good. Some people love it, and some people hate the painting. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very nice self-portrait.
It's kind of interesting to put these two together because they're so different from each other.
Yeah. Okay, I'm interested in kind of to know, like, if you can go back like 30 years ago when you were painting, where were you living? What was the scene? What was your like?
Okay, so like 1983 we're talking about, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Around that time, there was a group of artists in Victoria. I was in Victoria.
Oh, you were in Victoria.
Yeah. And there was a group formed that was called Alley Art in Victoria. And all the artists in Victoria, many of the artists in Victoria were part of that. And we painted outside. We did big projects outside painting. I was working very big in those days, pretty much all the time. And do you want to know who was in that group?
If you want to
Do you
mention them?
remember? Alley Art?
The alley. Is in the alley?
As in the alley.
Where did
We
that come
painted in oh God, what's the name of that alley?
It was like a plein air kind of art.
No.
Oh,
No, it was, we were all painting very interesting things. They weren't necessarily what we saw in front of us.
oh,
In
okay,
fact, they weren't what we saw in front of us. Luis Marino,
okay.
me, James Lindsay was around, Lance Olson was around, David Torsdahl, Andrew Leone, who you probably don't know, he lives in San Francisco. He's a very good friend of mine. Roberta Sutherland, Betty Myers, who had a different name then, Helen Rojak,
Okay.
Yves Vial, Luis Ituarte.
I wonder where he is now.
He's in, I'd hear from him.
Oh, really?
He's in San Diego and Tijuana, goes back and forth. Yeah, still doing sort of organizing artist stuff, you know. Ituarte was a really important person in that group. So we said, what's the name of that alley? It's in between Yates and Johnson, down near the bottom of both those streets.
Where the Salvation Army is now?
Yeah, that alley that
Oh.
goes down, Waddington Alley. Waddington Alley is the name of it. That was the first thing we did, was out in the alley. And I did a 8 by 8 foot painting. And a lot of us did great big stuff out in the alley. And we had this wonderful connection. Everybody was going to be friends forever, and it was this great thing. And then we ended up doing 2 more big shows in other places. We did 1 more big outside project in the Inner Harbor, and we all did 8 by 8 foot paintings. Paul Road, a lot of people. Like I'm not mentioning enough people, but anyway, we did all these projects, and the whole basic idea was to bring the art out of the galleries so that people could see the art. And that's where we were at, all of us. So it was a very great time in Victoria art. And very soon after that, I had a show at the Art Gallery in '86, a one-woman show at the Art Gallery. And that was a really big thing for me. And it was a series called the Family Series. And they were all this size, 44 by 60. And it was all my family in Chicago. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And it was a big success. And I also had another show running at the same time at Robert Vanderlevy, a big show. And it was on the cover of Monday. This was May of '86, I think. And I came out in that article about me. That was the first time I came out. I mean, publicly. Do you want me to explain that a little bit? People know what that means, came out? You do, I know.
Did Frank notice it? Or
Frank knows that. What about it?
did he write? Because I remember him writing, he wrote up.
He wrote something once. I had a show at Open Space that he wrote
Oh, I
about.
know, yeah, those, the ropes.
The rope climbing series, yeah. The article in Monday was Robert Moyes wrote it. It was a long article, and I was on the cover. And, we were talking, like we had this whole interview, and I was talking about my ex-husband, because he was asking me all these questions about what happened, And I was talking about it, and all of a sudden I thought, Annie and I have been together. Annie and I got together, living together in '73. So it's 40 years right now that we're together. So I thought, I better say something about this. And so
Just
I came out.
Out of the blue like that.
Yeah, I came out and told him, I said, I want to put this in the article. And he said, great. So only one person ever said to me, you shouldn't have done that. I won't even say who it is. He's a nice guy, but he was a little nervous about it.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Well, it's the times too, right?
Yeah, I've never been sorry about that.
So when did you come to Victoria?
Came to Victoria in '75.
Why did you come to Victoria?
I came to, I left Chicago in '69. I was married with 3 children, and it was after the Democratic Convention in 1968, and really my life changed really drastically. But everybody's life changed in 1968. It was like the whole world changed in 1968. So we came in '69, and I came to Maple Bay, which is Duncan at the ocean. Have you been?
No.
It's a beautiful place, beautiful place. And people from all over the world had come there at that time. So we were hippies, and it was a great big hippie community, and artists and musicians, and had a great, fabulous time. And I started teaching during that period of time in Maple Bay, and taught in Lake Cowichan for a while, and couldn't get my students to experiment at all. I was trying to get them to play around a little bit, but they wanted to just keep painting Lake Cowichan over and over again for my brother-in-law, for my sister-in-law. My neighbor saw the painting. I should make another one for her, this kind of thing. So I went back to school. I went to Malaspina, which is now called something else. And I had a great time at Malaspina in Nanaimo. We moved up there. Annie and I both went to Malaspina. And then I decided I would get my degree and teach in a university. So I came down to Victoria to do that in 1975 and went to school, started at UVic. And within about 6 months, I thought, I don't want to teach in a university. They were so miserable together. You know, there was so much fighting going on and so much politics. And that was the end of my idea of teaching in a university. But I was here, and I've really enjoyed being here. You know, this is my home. Long time now.
What was the art scene like then in the 70s?
I can't
Because
really
you said the
answer.
80s was a great time.
Yeah, it was. The
And
80s
it
was
was,
a
because
great
that's
time.
when I can't think I was spoiled because that's when I first started showing it. I thought, oh gee, it's always like this. But no, I think that was a
Yeah.
very high point.
Well, I was at school, so you know how you are at school, you know. I don't know how to do anything, you know. And then I went to art therapy in the late 70s because Annie and I split up and I was in a really bad place. And I went to art therapy, and the work at the Art Therapy Association school, you know, I mean, I wasn't at the school, I was a client at the art therapy thing. The work was great down there. This is next to Eric Martin.
Yeah.
And so I knew that work, and I knew the work at the university, which was very intellectual. So I don't know what the rest of the art scene was in Victoria at the time. But I don't think it was as exciting, certainly, as it was in the 80s. It's gotten better and better as the years have gone on, I think, in Victoria. So much happening now, you know, there's so many artists. And, I mean, it's hard to keep up with it. You try, you know.
Yeah. That's right.
But I did see a show of Carol Saveston's in the 70s that I was very impressed by. It was at a gallery on 4th Street. I don't even know what that gallery was. I don't think it exists anymore.
You to write a book about your life. What decided you to write a book about your life and the whole story?
Well, the publisher asked me to write it.
Oh.
So here's what happened. She used to live here, the publisher, and we were good friends. And this is like 15 years ago. And one day she said to me, someday I'd love to publish a book of your work. Well, every artist wants to have a book of their work, you know. So I remembered that. And she moved away, and we didn't see each other for years and years and years. And then we were at an opening. She was publishing a lot of poetry. She does publish a lot of poetry. And a friend of mine was having a book published, Dorothy Field. And I saw Diane Morris, and we sort of reconnected again. And then 2008 was happening. I'm not sure exactly when this happened. It was either 2007 winter or 2008, when things were very bad. You know, like nobody was selling any paintings. Everybody was really depressed. We were all afraid to spend any money. You know how it was. We all freaked out, right? So one night, I think I was sick. One night I walked over to the computer. I didn't know I was going to do it. And I wrote to her and I said, do you remember you said to me that someday you'd like to publish a book of my work? And I told her that I had been in a memoir writing group, which I had been in for 6-7 years at that point. Made that mistake. So I said that, and she wrote me right back. And she's in the interior, like she's in Castlegar or somewhere. And wrote me right back, and she said, I'd be honored to publish a book of your work, but I want you to write it. And so I was in this elation for a few days until I realized that I had to write this. I would swear right now, but I can't. That I had to write this thing, you know. So I freaked out, obviously. But I had a few pieces of it. What ended up to be in the book, and she knew that I wasn't a writer as such, so she hired an extra editor to help me organize. So that was really important. She was very generous with me. And so this woman and I sort of put together some kind of outline of how that could all fit together. And then I worked on it for 2.5 years. And then I had another editor, who edited, very, very nice guy. And so she had, proofreaders, etc., but I wrote it. And it was a marvelous experience for me, absolutely marvelous experience. And the opening at the art gallery, which I know you were at, was one of the best nights of my life. It really was. It was such a fabulous feeling for me there. And surprising.
Yeah.
So I'm very thrilled with the book, and Annie designed it and did such a beautiful job. And it's just something I never ever thought I would do, and it's done. Sometimes I just can't believe it, And last summer I was in Chicago, and I read in Chicago. My old friends were there, my family, and they say you can't go home again. Well, I went home again, and it was good. Yeah, so the book's been a terrific thing for me. I did write a little book once before. I did a series of Orpheus and Eurydice in the 80s, late 80s. And I was always telling, people don't know that story. I've always known that story, but a lot of people don't know it. So I would tell the story as I showed them these paintings. They were big paintings. And somebody said to me, why don't you write it? And I have very good luck with publishers, as it turns out. Another surprise of my life, So somebody came to me and asked me if she could publish it. And it was Linda Rogers, who was Poet Laureate at Victoria last year. And she had a little publishing company for a short time. So we did a book on it. But my writing, I wasn't so... I'm not sure of myself as a writer. I don't want to act like I am. But I got a little more sure of myself by the second book. That book, I wasn't sure at all about what I was doing. But writing about your life is different than writing about Greek mythology, too.
And speaking about that, writing about your life and everything that you kind of say in your book, don't you feel like you bear a little bit of your soul there for everybody to know?
I really believe
And do you
in
feel
that.
like is what you really wanted to do, or
Yes,
they
it's what
kind
I
of
really
push you
wanted
to do that, or
No, I wanted to do that. And more and more, I feel that
Right.
People need to be honest with each other. And this is where the connections come from, where our love, comes from with each other. Helps people to understand what it is to be human. We're all suffering, we're all struggling, and I really believe in that. Yeah, the older I get, the more I believe in that. Mm-hmm. So it's a self-portrait from that same period of time, from that 07, 09, so it's a little bit later when I'm talking about walking over to the computer and writing to the publisher. Yeah, so that's probably what I look like. And this is what I look like now, sometimes. So anyway, so it's a self-portrait, and it's definitely something I was dealing with age and the difficulties of growing old and the pain and arthritis and all the rest of the stuff that we all know about. And so that's kind of what's going on in that painting.
You said it's taken from a single photographic image?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like it. It seems like you've got time in there. Like,
Oh. Mm-hmm. Well, the strongest thing for me in that painting was I knew that this eye had to be bigger and higher than that eye. And it isn't, you know, on my face.
So why did it have to?
I don't know. I don't know. But you know how those things are. You don't know why you do certain things, but you just do them. So that was a very powerful piece for me, is that. And just playing with paint and charcoal and everything. And this piece, I think, is, I really like this piece of that painting. And I kept it pretty loose, the whole thing. And eventually didn't end up painting the bottom at all, you know, to speak of. So, which is pretty rare in my work.
So it's hard to decide when to stop.
Yeah, yeah. But I think mostly that enough paintings aren't really finished, rather than, you know, too much. I would say. Because so many times, you know, you see an art show and you say, it's almost good. You know, it's like they could go a little further. I think people don't go far enough, generally. Yeah. I like to go too far and then come back. And I think that's the thing about painting for a long time. You know how to come back. Where it doesn't look, you know, like you've been working on it for 100 years, hopefully. You know, sometimes, you know, it might. Okay, so, do you want to talk about any of these other things? I just finished today, and it's on an old canvas that didn't work, and I put a lot of texture on to cover all this other texture that was on there to start out with, and I like it. So, and these two are monotypes. And this one's from about 3 or 4 years ago. Is it crooked? It's crooked, isn't it? Does it matter? And this is a new one. So I just finished this in the last couple weeks. And there's a number of pieces that are called that. The One Who Knows. There's three paintings. 4 actually, with another one down here that isn't framed.
And what's the
it?
idea behind the One Who Knows?
It's a mysterious thing. It's a part of all of us, I think, that we know there's another part that, I don't know how to talk about this. You want to call it a soul, a part of us that may have been around before we were in this body or whatever. Or is the one who knows me, and this other part is there. I don't know the answer to this. So this is a mysterious image to me. Okay, so this is another in the series, The One Who Knows. And all of them have either gold paint, metallic gold paint, or gold, you know, yellow-orange color in them on this side, and I'm not really sure why. But to me it's about mystery and texture. There's a lot of texture in this painting. This is definitely me, and this is definitely the other. And who knows? Who knows? Well, I saw, Brad had some paintings at Open Space. So when was that? That was a long time ago, like in the early 80s, right?
83, 84, 83.
And I saw those. And I thought, I knew the painting because you study this painting in art history, you know. And I knew the painting, but I hadn't seen the painting for myself, which I did see eventually in Spain. So I saw Brad's painting of it. I knew that Picasso did a lot of paintings of it. I don't know how many Picasso's done.
He did, yeah, he did, I think it was over a 6-week period, he did a whole bunch. He did the whole series, all in that one period.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've looked at those. And then we were in Madrid about 10 years ago, and it's It's amazing to see this painting. It's one of the great experiences of an art museum is seeing this painting in Madrid in the Prado. It's in a beautiful big room and everybody is just, you know that word gobsmacked? It's like that. And it's very large. I mean, this is not large at all. It's about, well, I don't know, 6 times bigger than this. So I wanted to try it just to see if I could do it. And I was going to do, a lot more monkeying around with it and playing with ideas. But I just got very concentrated into the actual painting of it and really enjoyed it. And then I couldn't do what I wanted to do on top of it because it would have ruined it. So I think I will have to do another one someday.
And then you'll be afraid to.
Maybe,
You'll
I
end up
don't
with a whole
know.
bunch of, this one will be the one.
So I was going to do this, drawing, like a line painting, and just put it on. But I did this on some translucent stuff, and I stuck it on top, but it wasn't really transparent enough.
Oh, yeah.
So I might do it on a transparent sheet of mylar and stick it on top and then see. But the thing that fascinates me, and that's why I put this line in, is that everything is below that line, and that's half the canvas, except his head, the artist's head, is coming a little tiny bit higher than everything else. And it's, I had a aunt who had Down syndrome, my mother's sister. And so this figure, who's a dwarf in this painting, one of the ladies in waiting for the Infanta, has always been really fascinating to me.
That's what first started me on that figure. I'd read Carlos Fuentes' book, Terra Nostra, and then I saw that, and that figure was the one that first drew me into the painting too.
Yeah. And they say that art has to be a balance between the beauty and the bizarre. And that's what this figure does, adds to this. And without that bizarreness, things are too beautiful. And if they're too bizarre, without the Infanta, it has to be that balance between those two things. That's been a really important thing in my life, to know that. I don't know who said that originally, but I think it's very true. So anyway, I've done it. I have a few little hands that I haven't totally finished yet, but otherwise, and it's so great, to see what he did, to paint what he did, and like when you put the reds in at the end, it's like wow, it's beautiful. I love red anyway.
Plus, you get to look at the painting for a long time.
Yes, for a long time. Yeah.
Your Velasquez, I don't know why he reminded me of a Picasso.
Oh, did he? Did he?
He reminds me of a Picasso, like that he's done with Picasso. The funny thing is, this figure back here almost reminds me of Rembrandt's self-portrait.
Yes, it does. That's right. Yeah. Huh.
I find this really interesting too, the geometry that's coming in here. And I don't know, that reminds me of something too, and I'm not quite just...
Oh, I know who it is. German, I can't think of his name. I would say a German artist. Blue Rider, that era. But I like doing this, I like doing texture, and I like doing stuff with tape occasionally. And I did a lot of tape in here, and this is slightly raised up and stuff like that,
So why do you have, I noticed the line, that's why when I saw it originally when I came in, I thought, oh yeah, I noticed the line there. And then when I sat back here, I saw this line, and then I thought, oh, it's one canvas on top of the other.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
So that's, why do you put that line there? Then you want people to have them more detached?
I don't know why I did it on that painting. On some paintings.
Well, you've done it.
Here's what I did on that one. On that one, the self-portrait that you could probably walk over there. I did that one because I had it on the floor, because I was throwing some paint on it. and my neighbor brought somebody over. And so I said, oh yeah, this is what I'm working on. And I said, do you want to see it? Because I was going to pick it up, put it on the easel. And they said, oh, you have to pick up all those canvases to put it on the easel. And I thought, what? It never occurred to me that people would think that was a whole bunch of separate canvases. So then I thought, well, because they gave me that little thing, I'll use it. So I may have thought of this because this was done after that, but I don't know. It's lost in the midst of time.
We're playing with our minds. But
Yes.
you even do on this one, you have them almost like, they're
Yeah.
all very separate.
Yes, I
stuck
do.
together.
Yeah, you're right. I'm playing with your minds. I just found this stuff that you could drag around on the canvas, and it's like string gel. They call it string gel, or there's two different brands, but one of them is called string gel. So you can kind of go like this on the floor. You put your painting on the floor and you do this.
So you're Jackson Pollock.
Yeah, sort of. You feel like you're Jackson Pollock. And so I did that, and this tree was in front of our house on Ladysmith Street. And my neighbor at the time, we have very good luck with neighbors, always. The neighbor next to us, they've moved to Montreal, I had seen a white bird in the backyard, and I got very, very excited when I saw it. And I ran to get my camera and was gone. But my neighbor had taken a photograph of 3 white birds that were in the backyard. So we think they were albino birds. And he thought, and he was pretty much into birds, he thought they were finches. So it came from that white bird that I did this whole painting. And all these other birds are birds of this area. And playing with the texture, I was doing all kinds of different stuff. Like this is all different kind of texture than pretty much anything else I've ever done, actually.
Did you have the image first, or you started with the texture?
I started with the dragging that string gel around.
And you didn't really have an idea?
No, I
of
didn't
what
have the
you were doing?
image. Yeah, then I got the image. And to me, I don't want to say that, but it was not the usual way that I work. But I was just talking about working in that painting. I didn't know at all what I was doing, So that kind of is the beginning of this painting. Yeah. But I like it. I love it on this wall.
Nice contrast there.
Yeah.
Did you paint the wall that color for the painting?
No,
or
it
is
was
that
something
kind of-
else was on the wall at the time. But we painted the wall, yeah. But it works pretty well, I think, yeah. I did this painting in around 98, and this is when I was switching over between oils and acrylics. And so this center panel is oil, and the other 2 panels are acrylic. And I heard from people that were conservators and stuff that I should never have done that, but I did quite a lot of that for a while. And I was working from a place of not knowing at all what I was going to do. And I do that every once in a while. I go back and forth between knowing what I'm going to do and, doing little sketches that I'm talking about. I didn't talk about this with you. But sometimes I work like this, where I have no idea what's going to come. But it drives me a little bit nuts to work that way. So I go back to, making little thumbnail sketches. But this is during this period where I didn't know what I was going to do. So I just start out doing whatever came to me. And this is original, like the very first thing I did is this stuff with doilies and black gesso on white canvas. And what happened was I saw these 2 shapes of pears, and so everything came from that. And this is connection with Matisse's painting, the dessert, you know, I don't speak French, so I'm not going to try to pronounce it like that. But anyway, the dessert painting that is quite well known of Matisse's. And this figure is in it, and I repeated the figure. And then this compote dish came into this middle thing with the pears who had arrived here. And I have no idea where this came from, but all of this led to the Holocaust series. And I did the whole Holocaust series like this. Like they were all divided like this. I was using a lot of black, and I didn't know ever what I was going to do. So it was a very interesting, important time for me in 1998. So I call this Before the War, but it's really not even about the Holocaust. It's just about painting and all the stuff that I was thinking about at the time and continue to think about. And I like it. And my robe was in the bathroom, which it often is, and she said, "Oh, what a cute little robe you have." See, that's what happens, you know, like this little remark somebody makes, or, you know, it's just it's so quick, you know, and people always say, well, where do you get your ideas? Ideas are everywhere, everywhere. So I had done something similar to this years ago. I did a coat of many colors. Actually, at the synagogue, they had a thing that we used to have every year, and the rabbi would talk about stuff, and we would all make poetry and paintings and stuff. It was really neat. So I had done that, and I sold it right away, and I don't have it anymore, and I always miss that. And I saw it in Chicago. My sister-in-law bought it. So I always wanted to do it again. So I decided to do this. It's hard. You know, it's like putting together all these little tiny pieces. You know, it's not really my usual stuff. So, but I like it. And it's right next to my bed, and I see it every morning. And I do exercises in here, and I turn around, and there it is, you know, and it makes me laugh. So I really enjoy this piece, yeah. One of the great things about painting is that you have paintings at the end.
Yeah.
You know, and people don't talk about that. I mean, the process is very important, and you have to, you know, enjoy what you're doing and so on. But having the painting is also really neat. And, you know, having this in my bedroom is like, I like it. I love having that around. Yeah. So this outfit I had when I was in, like, probably 9 or 10 years old. And I've painted myself many times wearing these clothes. So after I did that robe, I thought, oh, I'll do another one. And so I did this. And I like it too. It's my old clothes, you know. I don't have these clothes anymore, obviously, but I made them.
You made a series of these paintings, or
Just
those
these
are
two.
only
Just
two?
these two, yeah. I'll probably do some more. But I have to
But
get
those
the
are
idea, you know, it has to come to me that I want to do it. I don't want to just keep doing the same thing if I don't have it in my heart, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
So these two were strong. Yeah.
You got lots of storage space.
This is the same storage stuff I had in the other house, and we moved it all over here when we moved. Recycled it, and it's all... But, you know, I don't have a lot of stuff right now compared to what I used to have. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there's some big paintings in here and from many years, you know.
And this is sometimes when you're painting, you like to jump up and down as you're painting?
I actually should be doing this more often than I am. But it sits here to aggravate me.
Make a painting out of it.
I can't see it.